I'm starting early because I want to. And we're live. Oh, Disc now streaming as well. Don't go. Good evening, everyone. As you may have guessed from the title, provided I'm actually live on the correct channel. Yes, I am. Victory! We are doing a Prime Minister's response because it's back. I had a bit of a issue today getting ready for this. I would have had all day, but I had to go to the doctor's for an appointment, and then I had to go do overtime that I really didn't want, but at the same time, easy money, you know. Which left me zero time when I got in to work out, which bugs me. Zero time to actually prep for the stream, in fact, because your comment, Adam Kim, I don't think it disappeared. Yeah, I only see the one comment. Yeah, so I wasn't able to prep for this particular PMQ, but I did take the opportunity to watch. I watched it when it was live. I had gotten back from a walk and was able to watch what I needed to see, but I wasn't able to take notes because I had to take down some other things, wallpaper and stuff for redecorating. So this isn't going to be as well prepared as usual. I do apologise. But, yeah. Tomorrow should be good, though, because a number of things we're going to touch on today will be focal points tomorrow with Trups. I think that's going to make things interesting. Excuses, indeed. Thank you, Graham, for that. And, of course, the Rocket League stream kind of made it very difficult for me to do any... I'm poorly and very stressed. This could be just a palate cleanser I'm needing. I'm sorry you're poorly and stressed. Hello to Serene, Dominion, Stefan, Anna, and Adam, Sir Blue-Footed Booby, Stargazer, Prospero, Joe, and Graham, and Yoshi. Hope you're all well. So yeah, this is the final PMQ before the crunch vote that takes place on Monday. And, yeah, this is going to get your poor Boy Scout with your lack of preparedness. Indeed, this is one of the few PMQs I've not been able to prepare for. But having watched it back, I feel confident that we can address this properly and provide some additional context where necessary. Yeah, so the meaningful vote, the crunch vote. So Adam Kim, question, crunch vote. Yes, and hello Echo. Basically on Monday will be the, well, it might be, the delayed by a month vote that MPs will take on whether or not to accept the deal that the government has spent 2 years negotiating with the EU. I mean, sorry, the boogeyman. You're here for the paper stroking. Well, you're not missing out on much. It'll be there. I watched it. It was glorious. And so MPs a month ago, when after a number of debates in preparedness for this, well, it was very clear that Theresa May's deal, all 595 or 85 pages, 92? Quite a few pages, longer than one or two of the Harry Potter books, let's go with that. In fact, it would have been more interesting to read if it was called Harry Potter and the Withdrawal Agreement. It was quite clear, based on the debates. Fantastic. I look forward to that, Princess Crazy Locks. Hello, Serene. It's quite clear the deal was going to be rejected. So, the Prime Minister postponed it, and then there were a number of votes. The Prime Minister was held in contempt, or the government. It was hilarious. And it was delayed. Now, the problem arises now that on March the 25th or 29th, we leave the EU. Well, we're meant to. And the problem has arisen in that it's quite obvious this is not going to get through Parliament. A bloot tomorrow for the best to happen to my neighbouring country. A bloot. What is a bloot? Bunch of masturbating Nazis. Well, that's going to come up. It's a blot. Right. Thank you. It's quite clear this deal isn't going to be accepted. The problem is the only other deal is no deal. Jeremy Corbyn will himself say during PMQs that we're going to cover that no deal should be removed, and that you're trying to blackmail us into taking a bad deal. He has a point, but of course his own hello Otaku Gamer Judas. His motivations, though, are a bit... There will be some additional debates that are going to happen. British Independence Day, if it happens at all. Hello, Chris. If it happens, then yes, we have something to go on. But if the debates happen, and the government gets voted down, then we're stuck. The EU has said there will be no more renegotiating. Therefore, we should not then seek to try and renegotiate a deal when the negotiating is over. The only negotiating that would take place is if the deal is accepted through the implementation period, where then they would try and work out a deal on the Northern Ireland and Ireland border, among other areas, but that was certainly a key topic, along with sovereignty over Gibraltar and France wanting access to our fish. I'd be inclined to give them only the dirtiest of carp, like with fin rot. Anyway, I have waffled on long enough about that. It should be on Monday. If it does happen on Monday, the vote, then I will stream on this channel a response to the entire event. I think if the government gets voted down, no fish. Yes, thank you, Gulf City Synthesizer. Hello, Gulf City Synthesizer. If it does happen, the vote goes through and the government loses and the deal is rejected, then no deal needs to be ramped up. But then we're going to talk about the fact that, and it will come up tomorrow as well as a more interesting and focal point, that everyone is now doing everything they can to prevent no deal. They're trying. The government is preparing for it just in case, and rightly so. But that's not how politicians, or a number of them, are seeing this. And yeah, Serene, I don't know if it's happening on the 14th or 15th. As far as I was aware, it was happening on the Monday, as opposed to my birthday. Although it would be a fantastic birthday present for me if it gets voted down or against, because that just creates even more crap. At this point, I'm inclined to believe that many of us on the internet are agents of chaos, because we just want this to go to shit. And it would be very funny to watch, because part of the deal that Theresa May's put forward, or well, part of some of the conditions put forward for something, is that Theresa May, she has, if it's voted against, she will have 3 days. 3 days to come up with a new plan. But there is no new plan. On the 18th, fantastic, Sir Blue-Footed Booby. Glad to hear that. I hope you're as irritated by star signs as I am, which apparently is typical Capricorn. Anyway, let us dive into... Oh, I need to get my earphones in. Ugh, do this every time. 1 second. I do apologise. As always, I forget. If the deal is agreed on, though, and this is interesting, if the deal is voted for, then we have something, and then there's not really much discussion then to have, because yes, they're very gay. Revert back to lizard form. Yes, I'm in favour of that. If the deal is voted for, then this is over. We accept the deal that was put forward, which many of us agree is a horrific deal. It's united Remainers and Leavers, because while it is, and you can argue you're 4 years older than me. Well, you will be at that point. Would I support a no deal? The only two on the table right now are this deal and no deal. This deal is a massive compromise on Remain and Leave, and it really just, I don't know. It's such a... Hello, Duck Dog. It's a very bad deal. No deal is the only realistic option when you only have those two options, and that's not great. because the deal, she had 2 years to negotiate this, and it looked like we just gave concessions. By doing this, and if we sign it, by the way, we agree on it, we just give more legitimacy to the EU. I really don't like that. Many people, I don't doubt many people do not share my view on that. But it's not an unelected commission that we've given all the power to. Dennis Skinner was quite right about this. Gave all the power to them. Anyway, let us... Is it this one or this one? This one! Haha! Win. Right. Let us begin.
Questions to the Prime Minister.
Okay, why is there no sound? Hang on. I plugged it into the wrong one. Your bell end. Didn't I? Yeah, I did. I must have. Oh, don't turn the monitor off.
Drew Hendry.
That's quiet. There we go.
Question number one, Mr. Speaker.
The Prime Minister.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that the whole House would like to join me in paying tribute to Lord Paddy Ashdown, who sadly died.
Yeah, blah blah. Some Lib Dem guy died. Oh, hang on. I should just.
Including my right honourable friend, the member for Broxtowe.
Right. This is going to be referencing member of Broxtowe. I think it's Anne Soubry, verbally abused by some guys, by some professional hecklers, I guess, campaigners. I think they call themselves, who've lost funding. Yeah.
And members of the media. I know the whole House will join me in condemning those threats.
I don't. But I condemn the choice of words they used, but I don't condemn the fact they got in your face. I don't support what Jeremy Corbyn's going to suggest, or you for that matter, when he suggests it. Soubry, yes. And I think MPs, when you take about it taking abuse or harassment from the public to MPs or journalists taking it, I think MPs should take it, especially if it's from constituents. And I think media have an integrity level below 0. So what leg do they have to stand on when it comes to being the victims of harassment, when they have made it a point to harass people for decades?
Politicians and the media should be able to go about their work
Lol.
without harassment and intimidation.
No. Okay. The guy in question, in context, he called her a Nazi, and a Soubry a Nazi. I think that was the mistake he made. He could have just said, I want to debate you on this. I think you were wrong on this. Can we talk about this? But instead he got in her face. A number of people have done this before, and it's barely been mentioned because of the way the MP in question handled it. They themselves recognise that this does happen. There's plenty of evidence of it, but they haven't made as much of a fuss of it. In fact, one of the things I found quite interesting was that many media sources were referencing this as a sexism thing. I don't think it's so much a sexism thing. I think it's a case of Anna Soubry, isn't she like an ardent Remainer? Hello, suit yourself. Aren't they ardent Remainers? Anna Soubry, she is. And I can understand why a number of people, especially the man in question who did, quotes, harass her, being a Leave voter. Jonathan Vyse, yeah, I saw his video. Got abused. Yeah, exactly. It depends on who it was. And I guess gender does play a part. A number of the articles that did address it did consider it to be a form of sexism. And I disagree. I think politics, in this instance, it wasn't gender related. It was, yeah, Prescott fucking threw punches. That was brilliant.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Drew Hendry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I echo her comments on Lord Paddy Ashdown and, of course, the disgraceful behaviour of threats to politicians and journalists going about their business. Mr. Speaker, like those in the rest of the UK, 235,000 EU nationals in Scotland were treated to a Christmas removal threat via social media from the UK Home Office, telling them to register if they want to stay in the UK after...
How is that a threat?
...after December 2020.
21. It's not a threat. It's a case of making sure you are here legit and we have you on record. That's not a threat. How fucking weak are you, you feeble little pissant? Oh, is that abuse to an MP now? Okay, well, as we're already balls deep, the guy on the right really needs to deal with that fucking side bit of his beard, because that just looks like he's drawn it on with a white crayon.
Friends, neighbours, colleagues, people vital to...
And Prospero, that is exactly what it is. It is, and it's, while we want them to retain their rights, and I totally support this, by the way, EU nationals who work in this country should retain their rights and be allowed to stay here. And I apply that to UK nationals who are in continental Europe. This is something both sides agree on. And I think, exactly, it's not a threat. You utter bellend. It is a case of ensuring we don't have another Windrush scandal. Because we all know how that ended, right? Peak Nazi. Fucking hell.
to the Scottish economy.
Oh, in fact, actually, I'm going to... No, fuck you for a second. It's a case... The Windrush scandal brought about many accusations about the term the hostile environment. If we don't ensure people are here legit and are registered here legit, then they are not here legit, and down the line they will be kicked out, and then this will be brought up again because of a mistake made now. This is not complex. If you want to be here and you are an EU national, register. If you feel threatened because of that, wow, you're precious. You're almost as precious as those army adverts I saw. Do you remember those over the Christmas period? There was one that even said, snowflakes, we want your, was it compassion to join the army? That was brilliant.
Shamefully told to pay to stay in their own homes. Can she confirm what will happen to those not registered by December 2020? And
they'll leave because they're not registered to be here.
Does she realise that for those affected, this feels less like a hostile environment and more like a xenophobic one?
Are you retarded? Okay, you're a moron. I haven't even gotten to Corbyn yet and Theresa May's answers to Corbyn, but you're a moron. You're implying, and this is an obvious point, you are implying that the only way we can really exist is if people could just freely come and go whenever they want. The first role of government is to protect its citizens. By your logic, you don't care about the citizens. So what the fuck are you doing there? You represent a constituency, by the way.
Prime Minister.
Can I say to the honourable gentleman, we recognise the huge contribution that EU citizens have made to our economy and to our society.
Cultural enrichment, everyone.
And we want them to stay, and the EU settlement scheme will make it simple, straightforward for them to get the status that they need. But can
Register. It's not difficult.
I say to the honourable gentleman
Intelligence
also,
defence.
EU citizens have until June 2021 to apply. The cost of applying is less than the cost of renewing a British passport. But if he is concerned about the interests of EU citizens, then he can back the deal which enshrines the EU citizens' rights.
I support the idea of enshrining their rights. I do not support the deal.
Tom Perskler.
And xenophobic is losing a lot of meaning if it's being used like that. If you're going to attack the Home Secretary and the hostile environment related comments, yeah, don't do it like that. EU nationals need to be on a register, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government's commitment to the Armed Forces Covenant is commendable, as is its focus on reducing reoffending. Care After Combat is doing remarkable work in this area, and their veterans have a reoffending rate of 8% compared to a national average on leaving prison of 45%, saving the government £20 million. Will my right honourable friend therefore convene a cross-government effort to not only shore up Care After Combat's work, but to look to expand it nationally?
This is probably one of the nicest questions I heard throughout the entire thing. just saying. And the only reason I'm playing it because it was one of the reasonable questions that cropped up. The rest was absolute dog shit. But don't worry, the best dog shit is saved for Ian Blackford.
Well, my
Minister.
has raised a very important issue, and first of all, I'd like to pay tribute to those who've served in our armed forces for their courage and their commitment. I'd also like to pay tribute to the vital work that Care After Combat undertakes. My honourable friend is absolutely right on that. Now, we have a range of measures in place to support those who've served in the armed forces who then find themselves...
Suit, if you think yours is, if ours is composed and you think yours isn't, you should see the Ukrainian. Those cunts actually just throw punches at each other.
...in the criminal justice system, and prisons tailor rehabilitative
Maybe not a legit question, but it was more of a reasonable plant, at least.
work to the individual needs, helping to reduce the risk of reoffending when they're released from prison. But the point my honourable friend makes about the excellent record of Care After Combat is a very good one, and I'm sure that a minister from the Ministry of Justice will be happy to meet with him to discuss this further.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you.
Prepare for a minute's worth of virtue. I do apologise, but honestly, you're going to have to suffer it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I joined the Prime Minister in paying tribute to Paddy Ashdown. He was elected to Parliament at the same time as me in 1983. He was a very assiduous constituency MP. He was a very effective Member of Parliament, and he and I spent a lot of evenings voting against what the Thatcher Tory government was doing at that time.
Privatising. And, Suit, I thought your government or your Parliament was busy stabbing each other in the back to get the top job. How many leaders have you had in the last 10 years again? I wish ours did that. Oh my god. Okay, I know this is the wrong time to mention this, but that is wrong. But look, that reminds me of a plasticine model.
I also, Mr. Speaker, agree with the Prime Minister on the point she made about intimidation of members of Parliament and representatives of the media outside this building, as happened a few days ago.
Oh, he's going to name drop, and I'm really sorry you're going to hear a name that just everyone hates.
When the member for Broxtowe and Owen Jones of The Guardian were intimidated outside this building. And I send my support and sympathy to both of them. But we also have to be clear, Mr. Speaker, that intimidation is wrong outside this building, as it is wrong in any other aspect of life in this country.
It's interesting you say that, right? He he must be saying this unironically, because his Shadow Chancellor... Yeah, I know, everyone's triggered. His Shadow Chancellor... Oh, God. That is a horrible little look. The Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell, actually said he'd be okay if every Conservative MP was hounded day in and day out. What is the PM questioning? She's not questioning anything. She is receiving today.
And we have to create a safe space.
No.
A safe space. We have to create a safe space for political debate.
Nah. Poor Puff to Owen, right, yes. Yeah, by the way, Owen Jones, I think, blocked me. But the idea of a safe space to discuss politics, they do exist. They are in the very chamber you reside in. Anywhere where a platform exists where people can discuss ideas can be considered a safe space if all you do is discuss. If what you do is try and deplatform, which you yourself are okay with doing, if you try and silence people, which you are okay with doing, then you are not an advocate for free speech or a safe space for free speech to exist so that people can themselves debate ideas. And by the way, to debate political differences, you need free speech, because you can't control that kind of shit. That is a very... yeah.
You see what I mean, Mr. Speaker? I'm calling for a safe space for political debate.
Not much, Trups.
Order, we've got a long way to go. The questions will be heard and the answers will be heard. No amount of heckling, no amount of noise will make any difference to that simple fact. Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, I also am sure the whole House would join me in wishing a speedy recovery to the 2 British soldiers who were injured in Syria last week. The Prime Minister scrapped the Brexit vote last month and promised legally binding assurances would be secured at the December EU summit. She failed.
Yeah, we still haven't got those. We haven't even gotten verbal ones.
She pledged to get these changes over the recess. She failed. Isn't the Prime Minister bringing back exactly the same deal she admitted would be defeated 4 weeks ago?
Yes, because we've not got any of the insurances. Okay, Sue, in a second. We haven't gotten a single assurance at all. We've had the, quotes, productive discussions that still need to take place and continue to take place. That's the excuse. Jeremy Corbyn is a bit of a, quotes, maverick in the sense that he bucks the typical trend. He buys most of his suits and clothes from discount stores and doesn't look right in a suit. In fact, he's had a beard most of his career, but now he's so old he can't actually keep a beard on his face. Which is just tragic, really. For God's sake, the man used to bang Diane Abbott. The guy was off his rocker. With Jeremy Corbyn, he's always said he's not a career dobby. I think that's the whip. With Corbyn, he's always considered himself not a career politician, but as he indicated earlier, he started in Parliament 3 years before I was even born.
Prime Minister.
Can I first of all say to the right honourable gentleman, I absolutely agree with him that there is no place for intimidation in any part of our society. Politicians do need to be able to have a safe space in which to express their opinions, many of which are passionately held.
Which is why some will call you a Nazi if they disagree with you.
And I hope he will now ask his Shadow Chancellor to withdraw or apologise for the remarks that he made about the former Secretary of State for Work and Pensions.
Hound away.
On the matter of Brexit that the right honourable gentleman has raised, perhaps let me update the House. The conclusions of the December European Council went further than before in seeking to address the concerns of this House, and they have legal status. I've been in contact with European leaders since then about MPs' concerns. These discussions have shown that further clarification on the backstop is possible, and those talks will continue over the next few days.
That's not good if we're going into a debate very soon, in fact. Say the vote happens on Monday. You have between now and Monday to have those debates, but also get that done and resolved so that when the debates take place, you can at least tell the House that they have the assurances they need. Which may not be enough in any case to get the votes to get it through Parliament anyway. You've got to think here. Just because you've got an assurance, it's the same grammar. Right. Fuck it, I've forgotten. Damn you, Jacob.
But we're also looking at what more we can do domestically to safeguard the interests of the people and businesses of Northern Ireland. And that's why this morning we published a package of commitments that give Northern Ireland a strong voice and role.
Yeah, okay, this is a reference to the fact that in the original withdrawal agreement there was powers that the Northern Ireland could veto or overrule or have a final say on the final deal that affected them. In the sense that they were considered at one point they were going to be made like an intermediate state. They'd remain a part of right. Learn German. You tell a man. You tell Hitler to learn German, that fucking Austrian.
In any decision to bring the backstop into effect. We've also been looking at how Parliament can take a greater role as we take these negotiations on to the next stage. And so I can tell the House that in the event that our future relationship or alternative arrangements are not ready by the end of 2020, Parliament will have a vote on whether to seek to extend the implementation period or bring the backstop into effect. And the Secretary of State for exiting the European Union will be saying more about this during his opening speech in the forthcoming debate.
I'm looking forward to that debate. He does a bit, but he does have that kind of weird hook nose as well. Dave Liddington is the guy on the left. The Duchy of Lancaster. That's where I believe his... Oh God, Lando.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, no amount of window dressing is going to satisfy members of this House. They want to see clear legal changes to the document that the government presented to this House.
Yeah, see, this is a little shift of the goalpost that I don't like. you want assurances, but then when you're getting anywhere on those assurances, then you're like, yes, but now we want it. We've got the assurances, but because it's not legal, they're not assurances. But you want the assurances. Actually, no, it's not a shift of goalposts at all. It's just wanting more. You're getting what you want, but now you want more. You're changing the rules a little bit. Fuck it, doesn't matter. I think no deal is more likely, Serene, but I think, and we're going to talk about it later, the MPs in that building are doing everything they can to prevent that, and he's going to ask some questions about no deal, so we'll get to that.
The Foreign Secretary said the Prime Minister has not been asking for anything new in her discussions with the European Union.
Well, what do you want her to ask for? One of Voldemort's Horcruxes? I don't know, a 5-string bass guitar? How about a bottle of Kraken? Oh, I'd like a new bottle of Kraken, actually. Maybe, oh no, if she's going to France, maybe she should ask for some, I don't know, cum-drizzled escargot. It's not going to change the fact that what she wants is an assurance on the backstop. The only way you can change how you ask for that is to be a poet and say the same thing, but with different words. So how is anything you've just said there a point?
She doesn't tell us, so doesn't that tell us that the Prime Minister has been recklessly wasting time, holding the country to ransom with the threat of no deal in a desperate attempt to blackmail MPs to vote for her hopelessly unpopular deal?
5-string fretless bass guitar, that would be nice. I have a 4-string. I did have a fretless a long time ago, but it was right-handed and I couldn't play right-handed, and upside down left-handed then. It looks ridiculous. The point he makes about blackmailing MPs is quite right. The only options on the table are take this deal, a very bad deal, or no deal. Now he's going to make other points about how no deal will affect the common economy in all ways. The thing is, he's forgetting that it wasn't that long ago that he said that even this deal hurt the economy. We know the risk now. We already know this is not going to end well for us. Well, in the sense that we're not going to grow as much as we would have if we stayed into the dying pet project called the EU.
Prime Minister.
The right honourable gentleman can say what he likes about no deal, but he opposes any deal that the government has negotiated with the European Union. He opposes the deal. He opposes the deal that the EU say is the only deal, and that leaves him with no deal. The only way to avoid no deal is to vote for the deal.
Yeah, fuck you, Chibbalats. This is a case of take a really bad deal that ties us to the EU essentially in perpetuity and having other people decide on what we can and can't do, or no deal and go WTO on the trade. Tough choice.
If the right honourable gentleman is uncertain about what I am saying, perhaps I can give him a tip. He might like to use a lip reader.
In this moment, I'd like to call you a stupid woman, even though last time he said stupid people. 4 candles.
The Prime Minister says that it's the only deal available. If that is the case, why wasn't it put to a vote on December the 11th in this House?
Because she would have lost.
Why has there been a delay of 5 weeks on this? The Prime Minister said she hopes to get written assurances before the vote next week.
Actually, that's a point. Yeah. You are quite right, Prospero. You've got to pass the bill to know what's in the bill. The thing is, we've got the bill. Everyone's seen it. Everyone's read it. It's free to read. But if changes are going to be made, they need to be made, and it's got to be in stone. We don't know it's there. So you're telling us to vote on a deal where it isn't even set in stone yet.
So can I ask the Prime Minister this? Will the changes she's looking for be made to the legally binding withdrawal agreement itself?
Hasn't he already asked this?
Prime Minister.
I think with Theresa May's... so in the chat, Theresa May is unelectable. Well, that's okay, because she's not seeking another term in office. when the next general election happens, she will be standing down. Which, at this point, will make it a very, very obvious and open opportunity for Corbyn to win. Hopefully by then, though, this will all have been resolved, and we will all be dead. Because 2020, everyone, no lives matter. 2019, the plods were carrying machine guns, wearing armour, instead of just a baton. Yeah, you're quite right. And I think we do need legal assurances. We do need it to be written in paper. We do actually need it into the agreement as well. But then that, if I remember correctly, if we're going to add something like that to the legal documentation, then you're going to need the EU to sign on that as well. Because they can't just, like, tick it and say, yeah, we've seen it. We'll just initial it as a little added page to give to you guys. So yeah, let's continue.
Minister.
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, we, as I have said earlier in my remarks, and I've said previously, there are three elements that we are looking at. One is the undertaking.
Thank you, /dash. Who is Daddy? Well, I guess I assume in this context you'd like to say you are. Don't you still have a wrench on this channel?
Assurances we are looking for from the European Union, and those
Canada's
will be
cut.
available. We intend that those will be available to the House before the House votes at the end of this debate. We are also looking at what more we can do domestically. I've set out, there is, the Secretary of State will be clearer and more detail will set out what we're going to do in relation to the powers for Northern Ireland and in relation to the question of the role of Parliament for the future. And we are looking to ensure that we can provide the assurance and confidence that this House needs in relation to the question that has been at the forefront of members' concerns in relation to the backstop. But we've put a good deal on the table. Yes, we are looking for those clarifications which I'm sure will ensure that members of this House know that the backstop need never be used, and that if it is used, it is only temporary.
I think the argument that's being made here is similar to the fact they want no deal off the table. They would want the backstop off the table as well. So that same argument, we need the legal assurance that it won't happen. But it needs to be there as an insurance policy. Honestly.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, in the midst of that very long answer, I didn't hear the words legal changes to the document. That was what my question was, Mr. Speaker. The Environment Secretary has said no deal would damage the UK farming sector.
I think everyone admits that any deal, even no deal, would affect negatively in some manner, something, somewhere. You'd have to be pretty retarded to think otherwise. If no one wants the backstop, then why is it there in the first place? Because that was the only way to stop a border from appearing, stop a border from being made in the Irish Sea. That's the excuse given. So yeah.
The Foreign Secretary has said that no deal is not something any government would wish on its people. The 4.2 billion of public money is being wastefully allocated to no-deal planning.
Oh, thank you, /Nash. Have some shekels, you dirty jewel. Well, very nice of you. I think this is remarkable political arrogance from Jeremy Corbyn. In the sense that if you're not preparing for something that could possibly happen, then I think you're overlooking when something could go wrong. You know this deal is not going to get through Parliament. As you know it's not going to get through Parliament, you need to prepare for no deal. Yeah, Furry Kitten, I kind of knew about this, so I don't understand why. This is where I think the EU managed to get more power, in the sense that they managed to negotiate many concessions from us under the pretense of getting some leeway with Ireland, Northern Ireland. But we didn't get it. Which shows a remarkable failing by the government.
Will the Prime Minister listen to the clearly expressed will of the House last night, end this costly charade and rule out no deal?
He's going to ask this question twice, and I think it's annoying. And for those who don't know what happened last night, what was it? So there were 20 Tory MPs that voted against the government's an amendment. They voted against the government's finance bill. The MPs backed an amendment to the finance bill, which would limit the scope for tax changes following a no deal unless authorised by MPs by 303 to 296. Which is kind of shit, really. It's brought the question up of can MPs or Parliament block no deal? I don't think they. I think they can, and I think it's unlikely. It's unlikely they could with such short notice without pushing for another general election. But I think it'd be very, very difficult to do it. They were again defeated last night on something else, and we're going to cover that tomorrow on the stream with Trups, because I think it's important to talk about that. The fact the government keeps on getting defeated is quite sad. It just really doesn't. It makes this government look even weaker. I'm just saying. So let's continue. Where's the video? There it is.
Prime Minister.
I've made it clear to.
Thank you, /.dash. It's very kind of you. Mud and Wild Dingoes will be the Aussie version of the game show. Oh yeah, I was reading the chat. That's what that.
To the right honourable gentleman that if he wants to avoid no deal, he has to back a deal.
Fam, I'd eat some Monster Munch, but I don't have any crisps in the house. I don't actually eat crisps. Sorry. I don't actually have any food in this room. I'm pretty boring like that. Maniac Mansion Tentacle. That sounds like fun.
And back the deal. But he stands there and complains about money being spent on no deal preparation. So today, on Wednesday, he's saying we shouldn't be spending money on no deal preparations. On Monday, he said no deal preparations were too little, too late. He can't have it both ways. Either we're doing too much or we're doing too little. So perhaps he can break his usual habit and actually give us a decision. Which is it?
Lol. That's the wonderful thing about opposition. They don't have to give an answer, and I've said that many times. What I think is really funny is that Labour don't hold a concrete position on this. And something of interest, those who've noticed, Labour haven't put forward a single idea, but they've just rejected everything out of spite, which I think is quite interesting and telling. They also haven't pushed forward with a vote of no confidence. I think they will. They'll do that if the meaningful vote goes through and the government loses, and so the deal is rejected. They'll then do that, get rid of her, call for an election, and try and do it so quick that then they'll probably cancel Brexit altogether. Which, by the way, if they did, it would be pretty fucking bad. Odds of no deal. Honestly, I think no deal's likely now. And yeah, Labour don't need to do anything. They just need to make the government look stupid. And that's the thing. So close to the end of this very much big change in our country, it's important that the opposition actually look like they know something. And I don't think they have a clue.
Corbyn!
This is the first time since 1978 that a Prime Minister has been defeated in the finance bill in the House of Commons. Last night, the House made it clear in supporting the amendment in the name of my friend, the member for Normanton, Pontefract and Castleford, that no deal should be ruled out. That is the position of this House. The UK automotive industry has written to the Prime Minister in December asking her to take no deal option off the table or risk destroying this vital UK industry.
I would probably stop listening to those who try and scare people into doing what they want. The role of government is to prepare, not just look after the people, but to prepare for the worst. And businesses should do the same. It would be stupid to not consider it as a potential option. Yeah, the Tories can't cancel Brexit at this point. If they do, they're fucked.
Given this House has now rejected no deal, will the Prime Minister protect...
If they've rejected no deal, but we get to the day when no deal has been agreed upon, that surely then means that it doesn't matter if they agree on deal or no deal, on a deal or no deal at all, because no deal will just happen.
Thousands of skilled jobs in the automotive industry and others and rule out no deal.
And again, look, he's asked about no deal. The thing about the second vote they wanted, if Theresa May loses the vote, she could push through with a second one. She really could. And that's, yeah, that's going to be tragic.
Minister!
Can I say I recognise that the Right Honourable Gentleman welcomed the leadership that the Right Honourable Lady, the member from Normanton, had given on the issue that he's referred to. I just want to be clear that the amendment does not change the fact that the UK is leaving the European Union on the 29th of March, and nor does it stop the government from collecting tax. But he asks once again about the question of no deal and about protecting jobs. We have negotiated a deal with the European Union that protects jobs.
Lol.
We have negotiated a deal with the European Union that ensures what is raising concerns, he says, is the prospect of no deal. It is absolutely sensible for this government to prepare for no deal, and those preparations are even more important given the position taken by the Right Honourable Gentleman.
Which position? Because he seems to have quite a few of them, and I don't understand where the consistency is.
With an opposition front bench that is opposed to any deal that the government negotiates with the European Union, it's even more important that we prepare for no deal. The deal protects jobs and security and delivers on the referendum, and he should back it.
Okay, so it does protect jobs, but it doesn't deliver on the vote of the referendum at all. I think Remainers and Leavers say this. It's pretty bad.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, instead of backing industries in this country and protecting thousands of jobs in manufacturing and service industries, her Transport Secretary is awarding millions of pounds of contracts to ferry companies with no ferries.
Development.
To run on routes that don't exist.
Development.
And apparently they won't even be ready by the beginning of April either. This is the degree of incompetence.
So you're complaining about that because it's money being used to invest in projects that will then be made. But you're equally pissed that money's been put aside under the guise that if Brexit doesn't happen, is there any point voting again? No, there really isn't. Because you know that the politicians will not respect the will of the people. Do you think it's wise, that is, back on point, to not consider a potential option that may well happen in prepping for no deal? And odds on it happening, if the government loses, it's very likely, and I think they'll lose the vote, so it's pretty much a guarantee, really. Unless the MPs in that room find a way to take no deal off the table. If they do that, the only way out then, because the only options are bad deal or no deal, would be to have a second referendum or to just stay in the EU. And that would be catastrophic.
Competence of this government in dealing with the whole question of relations with the EU. The Prime Minister's
highly likely, Nico.
Spent the last week begging for warm words from EU leaders and achieved nothing. Not one single dot or comma has changed. She's already squandered millions of pounds of public money on last-minute, half-baked planning for a no deal that was rejected last night. So if her deal is defeated next week, as I hope and expect it will the Prime Minister do the right thing and let the people have a real say and call a general election?
Make way for those that will do what's in the people's interest by going against what people voted for. Oh, now we'll vote for them, the other people, because, Tories have fucked it. Although the Tories have fucked it. I still don't think I'd want to trust Jeremy Corbyn with the next part. And I'm sorry, Jeremy, but your party is just shit. Right now, it's just shit.
Prime Minister!
And yet he's... Oh, you mean the commie Marxist?
No, we've put a good deal on the table that protects jobs and security. But I noticed in all of that we still don't know what Brexit plan the Right Honourable Gentleman has. I was rather hoping as he went through that he might turn over a page and actually find a Brexit plan. Because what do we know about the Right Honourable Gentleman?
This is where the contradictions are going to arise, and they're very well known.
He's been for and against free movement. He's been for and against the customs union. He's been for and against an independent trade policy. He was a Eurosceptic. Now he's pro the EU. He wanted to trigger Article 50 on day one. Now he wants to delay it. He didn't want money spent on no deal. Now he says it's not enough.
Yeah, it's kind of... Yeah.
The one thing we know about the Right Honourable Gentleman is his Brexit policies are the many, not the few.
I think she did that the wrong way around. I think his Brexit policies are kind of few. They're very lacking because we don't know even have a concrete idea where his position is. It's kind of tragic, really, isn't it? I just can't unsee Palpatine. I'm sorry to hear that. Scheming.
The NHS long-term plan is hugely welcome.
Okay, so this guy's mentioned NHS long-term plan. I actually thought there was a chance this would come up in PMQs with Corbyn, because many experts have actually supported the report the government had published on the government's long-term plan for the NHS. Many experts support it. The only people that don't are the public. And I thought, because Corbyn may want to give some decent questions, he would have actually hammered her saying, the public don't like this, the public don't like it. Which would have been a shift of the goalposts, because he normally complains when the experts complain. But he's down with the people, you know. Like Dizzy Rascal and Tinchy Strider.
In particular, it's recognition that GPs are the bedrock of the NHS. Does the Prime Minister agree that it's vitally important that we do all we can to support GPs to stay in general practice, and that the education training budget must be urgently prioritised to support a wide range of healthcare professionals to support GPs in their practices?
Can I say to my honourable friend that he raises a very important point about GPs. And indeed, of course, if he looks at the long-term plan for the NHS, which was launched on Monday, which is being made possible by the £20.5 billion extra we'll be putting into the NHS in 2023-24.
When she says extra, that implies on top of what they're already putting into it. Just thought I'd say that.
He will see that support for the workforce, including GPs, is a very important part of that plan. And indeed, a greater focus on primary care, which will be better for people in helping to keep them out of hospital. At any point in time, 20 to 30% of people in hospital don't need to be there, is an important part of that plan. GPs are an essential element of that. I assure my honourable friend that they will be part of that important workforce planning.
Okay, everyone, it's time for the paper fondler. Everyone hide your A4. This guy's about to get real freaky with it.
Mr. Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I concur with the Prime Minister on her remarks and Paddy Ashdown and make the point that all of us collectively have a responsibility to make sure there is no intimidation
I know he's doing it,
in our public life.
See the way his left arm's moving.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister delayed the Doom Brexit vote last year on the promise of written concessions.
It is the Penguin. It is Cobblepot.
Prime Minister, where are they?
Yeah. Can I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, I set out the position in my first response to the Leader of the Opposition. I suggest he should have listened to it.
Which was a non-answer.
Ian Blackford!
We're used, Mr. Speaker, not to getting an answer, and there we have it again. What the Prime Minister promised was that we would get written concessions, that Parliament would have the opportunity to vote on that, and nothing has materialised. A month has passed, and nothing has changed. Mr. Speaker, last night, the Prime Minister suffered another humiliating defeat. When will the Prime Minister face the facts? There is little support for her deal or no deal in this House. The new year began without concessions. The Dublin talks failed without concessions. The debate on her deal restarts today without concessions. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is frozen in failure, asking MPs...
It's a mini Jabba the Hutt.
...to write a blank cheque for her blindfold Brexit. MPs should not be debating without the full facts. Is it this, or when are the concessions, not just clarifications? When will the Prime Minister guarantee that this House will see the full details before we start the debate this afternoon?
The Prime Minister.
As I said in response to his first question, I set out the position earlier. I referenced, as he will know, the conclusions of the December European Council, which went further in relation to the issues that I had raised with the European Council than they had gone before, and those have legal status, but we are, of course, working further on those issues. But the right honourable gentleman can't get away from the fact that if he wants to avoid no deal, he has to be willing to agree a deal. The deal that is on the table, the deal that is...
Ah, yes, a deal. The Scottish nationalists agreeing a deal to leave the EU when the Scottish people, for the most part, voted to remain. That seems unlikely, because he wants to stay in the single market and customs union. The only way you're allowed to do that is if you remain a part of the EU as a member state. The paper toucher has you in a bit of a box, because no matter what, this self-righteous prick, this fat little hobbit, will not support the deal. And fucking how indignant does this twat? He looks like he's off his tits.
Is on the table that the EU has made clear is the only deal, is the one that the United Kingdom government has negotiated with the European Union, and if he really wants and is concerned about ensuring that we can look ahead with a bright future across the whole of the United Kingdom, he should back that deal.
Order. Closed question.
Right. I'm done with the questions now, by the way. I can't be asked. I'm very interested to know what you think. If you think no deal should be accepted, press 1, because I'm interested to see if you do. If not, press 2. If you support a deal, or the deal that is, press 2. I will be very intrigued to see how this progresses. Quite frankly, I don't see it going any further. She's got, at most, 4 days. Is it 4 days? Well, yeah, because Monday will be when the debate happens. Or the vote, potentially, when it happens. And I don't think she's going to win. I think a vote of no confidence will be triggered. I think that will then cause her to lose. I think then she will, once she's lost it, I think then she's going to be put in a position of stepping down, which will then lead to, well, it will lead to the government losing even more, a Labour government stepping in, a Labour government either holding a second referendum, or begging the EU with more concessions for more time to negotiate a deal, which I don't think is feasible, really, is it? And I noticed from the chat, virtually, oh no, everyone voted, everyone won, everyone. The way no deal would work, though, and so people understand it, it doesn't mean that no negotiations take place. It means that no deal has been agreed before during the 2 year time limit. It doesn't mean that we don't then negotiate a deal of some kind afterwards, because we would have to anyway on trade with WTO terms. And that's actually something of interest with the holding a second referendum would be catastrophic. With the current deal on the table, if you then... That wasn't what I was going to say. I've gone off track. With the current deal, and it is pretty bad, if you're going to try and put it through Parliament and then do what Theresa May's suggesting, which is potentially hold another referendum on it as well, oh, it's going to get bad. It's going to get very, very uncomfortable. And I think she's risking security. And to be clear, the deal on the table is really, it would risk a lot. We're not really leaving the EU with that deal. And if you're going to put MPs in a position of do what's best for the country because I'm telling you to, because it's the only deal available. Off topic, I request a discussion debate between Sinatra and Omegon. Topic, lollyporn. I know nothing about lollyporn past it being cartoon shit. I don't even watch like hentai, so I don't watch cartoon porn of any kind. But it's an interesting idea. I don't debate though because I'm not very good. In the sense that I just don't know how to debate people. Least of all people like Sinatra, who is very, very funny. I think I'm done. So yes, tomorrow I'm going to be streaming here with Trups, provided he isn't having another colonoscopy. And if all goes to plan, then it would be a good discussion. It would be very interesting. I don't know anything about it though, to be fair. So yeah, I think I'm finished actually, yeah. Thank you all very much for joining. I hope you all have enjoyed this anyway. Smash the like button. And chub chubs are dead little things. Right. Have a lovely evening, everyone.